Hi, my name is Arkadiusz Trzciołek. I am a fixed income strategist at PKO Bank Polski.
The news on COVID-19 vaccines coming from 3 companies already have strongly boosted market optimism and briefly led to sell-off of safe havens. The expectations for swift vaccination are limiting a scope for reaching new all-time lows on the Polish yield curve. Nevertheless, the pandemic situation is still serious, with coronavirus infections remaining high. Although a strict lockdown was not introduced in Poland, the local restrictions are still tight. Restrictions imposed also elsewhere in Europe are proving a drag for macroeconomic data in this quarter. Despite high anti-crisis spending, the supply of Polish government bonds in the fourth quarter is low and is likely to remain such at least for the remainder of the year. The Ministry of Finance also enjoys low budget deficit, which combined with the issuance plans is unlikely to lead to a sell-off of Polish bonds. The monetary policy in the coming months is set to remain accommodative, as major central banks are unlikely to tighten it anytime soon. With some of them preparing to ease policy further, we expect any rise in the yields to be limited. The Polish rate setters are also ready to speed up their bond purchases, as they view it now as a main tool since the monetary policy rates are already near zero. So far in the fourth quarter, yields on Polish government bonds moved slightly lower, especially on the belly and the back end of the curve. We continue to expect that 2-year bonds will finish the quarter close to 0.05%, 5-year around 0.55%, and 10-year near to 1.25%. At the turn of October and November, yields on the Polish sovereign curve fell to all-time lows as fears over pandemic sentiment and tightening of countrywide restrictions dented optimism. Additionally, 2-year bonds briefly traded below zero as market was pricing in a rate cut. These expectations, however, have not materialized, and any rate changes by the MPC are unlikely soon. Thus, the short-term yields are likely to remain anchored close to the reference rate of 0.1%. Yields on longer-dated securities have slightly rebounded as the improvement in sentiment towards riskier assets following the US election and vaccine news. The COVID-19 vaccine gives hopes for a swift economic rebound in 2021. The budget deficit up to October amounted to only 12 billion zloty. This is well below the 109.3 billion seen in the government budget bill. Thus, despite the anti-crisis spending, the low deficit combined with hefty liquidity cushion are leading to a subdued issuance of government bonds. Since August, the Ministry of Finance is holding only switching auctions, which result in zero net supply. Lack of new issuance is among major factors keeping local yields close to record lows. The bond sale coming from state agencies is slightly offsetting the weak supply of government bonds. Nevertheless, in recent months, the issuance of state-guaranteed bonds was relatively low, whereas the demand for safe assets is still visible at the bond tenders. The National Bank of Poland is still conducting its asset purchases, which total 105.5 billion zloty. The program is supportive for bonds, however, the NBP purchases are slowing down in line with the subdued supply. Spread on Polish government bonds versus core benchmarks remains relatively tight as it narrows further, especially versus the 10-year US Treasuries by over 20 basis points so far in the fourth quarter. Although the economic outlook for 2021 has brightened recently following the positive news on vaccines, further fiscal and monetary policy support globally is expected. The monetary policy is likely to remain loose, which should limit the scope for yields to rise significantly in the near term. This should also limit any rise in spread of Polish bonds versus the main benchmarks. The easing of monetary policy is expected to come rather as an expansion of asset purchases than rate cuts. Even the doves in the Polish Monetary Policy Council are hesitant to cut rates to negative levels, and any additional loosening may be delivered by increased bond purchases. The expectations for an increase in quantitative easing conducted by the European Central Bank are mounting, as the bank already hinted on such actions.